Welcome to Sit on That Stump in Muddy Bottom with Vicki Parker. Vicki is an author and the CEO of Options Pregnancy Center in Cabot, Jacksonville, and Beebe. Now, here's Vicki.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sit on That Stump in Muddy Bottom. I'm so glad you've joined us today. We have a powerful story to share with you, one of redemption, resilience, and faith. And I am Vicki Parker, your host for today on Sit on That Stump in Muddy Bottom. Our guest is Crystal Vinson-Holland, a woman whose life has undergone an incredible transformation. She's gone from battling addiction and facing some of life's darkest moments to becoming a source of hope and inspiration for people, especially me, who have been incarcerated and seeking a second chance. So, Crystal, I just want to thank you for joining me today. Thank you for coming on to this show, but thank you for doing what you do.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Crystal, many people see where you are today, but they may not know the journey that it took to get you here. So what drives you to come out of addiction and completely turn your life around? I think that's a question that so many people wonder, what is that button? What is that moment? Because you'll see years and years and years of the same issues, and then all of a sudden it just turns on. It seems like it turns on a dime, but I don't think the person going through it feels like it turns on a dime. So can you take us back to that moment in your life when you finally said, this is it. I can't keep living like this anymore?
For me, it was a very, very specific moment. After running from God for 22 years, doing anything and everything I could to destroy my life and even trying to end my life, I woke up in a hospital bed completely alone. I had burnt every bridge with everyone that I knew, and I finally had to take a look at myself in the mirror and see the role that I was playing and the choices that I was making in my life.
Right.
And that was hard for me. I was no longer a victim. At this point, I was a 36-year-old woman, and the choices that I were making were a result of what I was doing.
Right. Do you remember the specific emotions that you were feeling really at that time? And for somebody that's really struggling today that might be listening to this, or maybe they have a family member, it goes, I've had family members. I mean, it may not be the person that's listening to this show, but it might be somebody that has a family member. What would you want them to understand about reaching that breaking point?
There's so much fear behind it because it's a life that's all you've ever known and that you've never had hope before. And so envisioning your life of being anything more than maybe just coming out of it and being sober, that part of it is scary. And the what ifs, what if I fail? What if I don't make it? What if I disappoint everybody again? It's that fear and that shame and that guilt.
Right. That had to be a big thing. I just talked about this today with someone about sometimes we are so afraid of success that it's like, well, what if we do become successful? What if we do it and then we fall back? It's almost like you feel like it's better just to not ever get there, not ever be successful, and just stay in the same old rut, stay in the same old pit as to go and do it and then fail. Is that kind of where you were at?
At that point, yes, but more so at the time that I'm at in my life right now, because, 6 months ago, I left a position that was very, very, very rewarding, brought me a lot of social media success, things like that, but it also took me away from God. Yeah. And so I had to make a decision to step away from that and to get kind of regrounded with my relationship with Him. And so I had that fear of letting go then, just like I had that fear of letting go in the beginning.
Wow.
It's almost like a mourning time in your life. You're going to mourn one life to be born into a new one.
Right.
And you just got to do it with faith.
Yeah. And that walk of faith ain't for the weak at heart, is it?
It ain't a cakewalk. That's
It
for
is
sure.
not a cakewalk. I'm telling you, girl. I've been on. This is my second round with a big one, and I told somebody not long ago. I said, we put faith, these pretty little words on walls. We put them on our desk. We talk about it, and we do all of this. And but faith is a hard word. Faith is a hard walk. This is not for the weak at heart. It is not an easy thing to have. And anyone who
He's just a regular guy with a cool job
has done it are not being realistic,
Right.
because it's painful. It's like when you pray for patience. Don't do that. Because you know that, like, okay, I'm fixing to get text. I'm going to get tested with this. I know what's going to happen here. I'm going to be tested with this. But faith is patience. That's exactly what faith is patience. Because to walk in faith, you have the patience. You have to have the patience to believe that what you're walking in is going to happen. And
absolutely,
it's very, very hard. I want to applaud you for making your choice about your faith, walking in the faith of the Lord and grounding yourself back and getting yourself back with the Lord, because there's nothing more important than that, is it?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
We lose that, we lose everything.
Everything. And what justice would I do to him from where he brought me from to now, just to let him go?
Absolutely.
That would not be doing him any glory at all.
Right. And I remember a very good friend of mine, she's a very good friend of mine, like a sister, more like a sister. I remember I went through this journey with her, not once but twice, and she's very precious to me, but I think of her as very much as a hero. And so when she came out the first time, she's on fire for God, and she's all ready to go. And I remember saying to her, I don't care who you see in the grocery store, you run. Do you hear me? Run. And she said, well, I want them to get saved. I said, I know you do, but you're going to have to let Jesus send somebody else. Because
right.
I think you're walking right back into it, and they're going to pull you back in. Well, it took some years to do that, but this is the thing. Satan is very patient. He's very patient, because he will wind that little coil around us, and he'll keep on until he draws us back into the center circle, which is where he wants it. That's the target he's after. And so
Absolutely.
he'll pull us back around to that. So I think a lot of times that people don't realize, then don't think about what the implications are of trying to help somebody else when you've just got to take care of you and Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to come first, because you can't pull somebody else up if you can't even keep yourself up.
That is 100% true.
Yeah. So making the decision to change is one thing, but actually beginning the journey is quite another. How did you take really that first step toward recovery? What did that look like? Like what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced in those early days?
When I say taking the first step into recovery is the hardest step you will ever take, I mean that. And it's almost like standing on the edge of a cliff and without a harness, with no safety net. And it's a free fall, and it's a surrender, and it's something that you're going to have to trust that somebody's going to be there to catch you.
Wow.
And
that's a scary place
what
to
it
be.
was. It is. It's a very scary place to be, and it's some that people teeter around, and they want that safety rope to get back up if it doesn't work, But it is. It's a free fall. It's a surrender, and it's total surrender. And those, I went through a faith-based recovery program, a 6-month program. They say 3 days, 3 weeks, and 3 months are the hardest. That's the time when people want to quit, they want to give up, they want to run. I had children at home, that, I'd burn every bridge in my family. My marriage was in complete ruins at the time. And so when I left and went to do this, I did it on my own. I didn't tell anybody where I was going, what I was doing. And it wasn't until probably 5 months, into it that I reached out and they came to visit, and we started rebuilding those relationships and gaining that trust back and rebuilding the relationships. People always tend to give up before the miracles happen.
Right.
But you've got to apply that action day to day. You've got to know everything that you're learning, soak it up like a sponge. I mean, I had a plan. My first year in recovery, when I got home, I didn't even have a vehicle. I was walking to recovery meetings.
Wow.
I had Bible study on Monday night, Celebrate Recovery on Tuesday night, church on Wednesday night, Chrissy's house on Thursday night, usually some recovery event on Friday. I rested on Saturday, and I did church on Sunday twice for a year straight.
Yeah.
And like I said, some of those times I was walking. And so it's just applying that day in and day out and making it your lifestyle.
Right. And knowing that you've got to have the determination.
100%.
You've got to have the determination that, and I think it, I think of it like this. I think it's like you come to the mirror and you look in the mirror and you're just sick of what you see. You're just so sick of what you see that you will do anything and take any measures to change that. Does that?
Absolutely.
Just different journeys that I've been on for my own personal self, that's what I've come to, is I just got to that place where I looked in the mirror and I thought, I'm sick of you. Girl, I'm sick of you. I'm sick of every decision you're making. I'm sick of what you're, get a hold of yourself. This is me talking to me, and so I have that big breakdown and that big shakedown, but I'm the one who did it to me, and
exactly.
And you have to look at it, and you know that if you don't change it, nobody can come in and change it for you. You have to be the one. So who were some of the people that encouraged you or believed in you when you may not have really believed in yourself, but they believed that you could do this? Did you have some people, or was it just you and Jesus?
Well, it was Jeff and Teresa Chandler through Recovery Through Christ at St. Mary's in Rosebud, most importantly, because that's where I went. I stayed in a 100-year-old church where the floor was falling in, and I literally slept on an altar every night. But they had both been through addiction themselves and came out with a relationship with God, and he was a pastor, and he had a heart for just wanting to help women and things like that. So it was identifying with somebody who had been where I had been and had found a way out and wanted to love me back to life. And that's what they did. They were like parental figures for me and still are to this day. Like, they just have a heart. And then Nicole Noble, who was the house mom there, I'll never forget the first night, her coming in and just sitting on my bed and being like, "You're going to be okay." And she was just smiling and just happy. And I'm just like, you've been there too, and why are you so happy? Like,
you're thinking, what are you smiling about?
What do
you know about this? Right. What are you smiling about?
And it was just those people, and that love early on, they loved me back to life before I could learn to love myself.
Yeah, and that's key to it. You do have to learn how to love yourself again.
Mm-hmm.
And do you was there a time where you also felt like, I have to be able to forgive myself, or I've got to learn to forgive myself? Because when you look at just the part that you shared with me, losing the kids, burning the bridges with the family, and that's a lot of repairing, that you think, can I repair it? Is there anything? And then you go to beat yourself up. I'm my worst enemy. So I'm the one that's nobody has to line up to take a hit at Vicki, because I'm going to take a hit at Vicki first. I'm going to be the one that hits on me first. But what I've seen across many different areas of life, but I've seen women and men that I realize that sometimes the reason we can't walk closer with the Lord and that we can't get there faster is because the truth is, we've been told, we've read the Word of God, and we know that He is faithful and just to forgive us of our sins and forgive us for what we've done. But the failure is that we don't consider ourselves to forgive ourselves in all of this. And to forgive oneself is, you almost feel like you're letting yourself off the hook. But that's not true, because Jesus died on the cross. He went to that whipping post and he took that scourging. He took that beating. Then he walked with a cross up on those naked, bare bone shoulders of his that flesh was hanging from. And then he goes and they nail him to a cross and he hangs there. He did it all knowing we were going to do what we were going to do.
Yes.
And he did it anyway. Now, one of my favorite songs has been, it's every day. I eat this song every day. It's You Could Have Called 10,000 Angels. And
I love that
it
song.
has ripped me in the floor. I'm in the floor with this song because it just brings it home to me more and more that every single thing that we do and have done, he knew the day that he went and allowed them. He knew it when he was in Gethsemane. He knew every bit of that what we were going to do, the choices we were going to make, and he forgave us anyway. All of this we can even accept. But for some reason, we still think we've got to pin ourselves to the cross. He's already paid the price. He overcame death, hell, and the grave. And he said, it is finished. And when he says it's finished, I think it's finished. I think it's a done deal. But we tend to do that. And I find that across many different traumas, many different choices in life that people do is they won't forgive themselves.
Yes.
Did you go through something like that? Did you come to a realization of something like that?
I absolutely did, because I thought everything was always my fault. I'm actually in the process of writing a book. They called me crazy, but my name is Crystal, because I had no identification, and no way to know how to forgive myself, because I didn't have other people around me who knew how to forgive me at all. Right. But I'll tell you, when you mentioned the song, mine was My Redeemer Lives. Yeah. And for the first time in my life, when I heard Nicole Mullins sing that hard heart, it just kind of, that first layer busted open, and I felt tears, and I felt his presence for the first time. And it was my interview for Recovery Through Christ. But I'll tell you, altar calls for me are some of the most precious, intimate experiences that I've ever encountered with Jesus. And that is where my heart started softening, like the onion, the layers started peeling back. And I forgave myself bit by bit, and he started revealing a little bit more to me over time, And it's a process, and it's still a process today. And that's why I'm a firm believer in step work, because there's still areas of work that I still have, need to work on and things like that. But I had to forgive myself, because if I couldn't go any further. Like that was just, that
how could you help anybody else?
Yeah. Yes.
That's what it comes down to. And this is what people, I think sometimes they don't get how important it is to be able to forgive yourself, because how are you ever going to help somebody else? If you can't even forgive you, how are you going to help them to do it? How are you going to help them to get to that place where they realize they have got to forgive themselves, and you're like, what? I haven't even done that. How am I supposed to help them? So I feel so strongly about that God has just given us that. And I think that's a story that we continue to tell, because there'll be people who have done other things. Maybe it wasn't drugs, maybe it wasn't, breaking the law or doing something, but it was personal. It was hurting somebody. It was talking ugly about them or to them. And being able to forgive ourselves of that is, if we don't, and I do this through our post-abortion recovery too, is I say to them, if Jesus knew that you were going to make the choice that you did, And he went to the cross anyway, so that you could be saved and live with him for all of eternity. How is it that we have the right to say we're going to hold ourselves above when Jesus has already paid the ultimate price? Does that not say to us that, almost say that, like, well, we're holding ourselves to a higher standard than Jesus if Jesus did that? And without one person, I'm telling you, every single time they're like, "Oh my goodness, Vicki, I never thought of it that way." And I said, "But sit and think about that for a minute. It's like we're putting ourselves above a standard that even Jesus paid for all of it. How do we do that?" And it's so freeing when we forgive ourselves for the things that we've done. We've already accepted his forgiveness, and then we forgive ourselves. That's grace. That is grace and mercy in the highest degree, I think. And it's such freedom. So if somebody's listening today, that's what I would say to you. Regardless of what you're attached to or addicted to or whatever, what I would say to you is give yourself, if you've accepted Jesus as Lord and Savior, and you know that he went to the cross and paid for everything we've ever done, and he did it in advance. He didn't wait till we did it. He went ahead and did it over 2,000 years ago, and he did it for us in spite of us. He didn't wait until we did it. So how much more freeing is that we would forgive ourselves? And I feel like that he does, like, "That's my girl. Thank you. I'm glad you finally got it. I've been up here, finally, I've been up here trying to get to you, and get you to understand that." So were there moments, what were some of the moments that was when you really, really wanted to just give up and throw in the towel? Was there one? Was there 25? Was it daily? What was that like?
Oh, I don't think I ever wanted to throw in the towel, because once I hung on, there were hard times. I'm not going to lie. There were very, very hard times.
Right.
Getting the relationships back with my kids was a very, very difficult process. They were teenagers at the time, and
Right.
They had their own struggles at this point, and kind of walking through that with them, and trying, at that point, I couldn't be a mother to them because
Right.
I had caused their trauma, but I could introduce people into their life who could, that they would listen to other than me. Those were my hardest moments, I think. But today, here we are almost 8 years later, and I think all of us have an amazing relationship. And so not giving up, continuing on while the miracles continue to happen is the biggest thing, because I know if I throw in the towel on any given day that I'm going to lose it all.
Right.
I may be walking right down the middle of the road, but I'm 3 feet from the ditch on either side.
Yeah.
And so I have to keep that in my mind at all times. I just don't think
It's
I
not
don't
an
have
option,
in
is
me
it?
the wants. It's not after I got this freedom finally.
Yeah.
After thinking this is impossible for 22 years.
And that's what I'd love for our audience to understand too. Addiction does take you further than you want to go, keep you longer than you ever want to stay, and make sure that it destroys you if it can. It really does, and it just like any other sin that any other thing that we ever get involved in and allow the enemy to come over the top of us with, but in the midst of that, I just keep hearing that song that you said, "My Redeemer lives," and that's what I feel like we just heard you say. In reality, is because you have been redeemed, because that's who he is. He's a restorer and he's a redeemer. And
Yes.
he's going to make sure that if all we have to do is come to him, and if we're willing to come to him and do it, then he is sure and just to do it. So one of the most remarkable parts of your story is how you turned what must have been a very dark chapter of your life really into a mission of helping others today you work with and have in the past months. I want you to share with the audience what you're doing today, what the journey looks like going forward. But you worked with incarcerated individuals and you helped them to see that their story doesn't have to end where it started. So how did that develop? I think the real question here is, I see, and this is kind of my story and what my book is about, is like God takes, he never wastes our trauma. He never wastes our sin. He never wastes that, does he? He always takes that and he says, but I know you think I can't use you, but watch me. Watch me take your story, turn it inside out, and turn it to my glory. Yes. So how did that develop for you?
About 2 years into my recovery journey, I had started out at Chrissy's House of Recovery, and I was helping with that ministry, and it was just a meeting place on Thursday nights, and we were, getting people in and getting people into treatment, and I really loved that aspect of it. But we had a lot of people that were coming in that didn't qualify for faith-based treatment for whatever reasons, and so I started seeing a different side of the justice system. And I decided I wanted to become a peer recovery specialist. That landed me a job at the Lonoke County Sheriff's Office for 4.5 years, where I was an overdose responder. I would go out on overdose calls. I would help the victims and the families while the detective would try to trace back where, the substances came from and work that side of it. And then we developed the PACT program, which was a alternative sentencing program, multi-pathway approach. It was just me and Michael Springer. And I know it was God because we did it in like a month. We put all the paperwork together and started sentencing people. And over that 4.5-year process, we had about 200 individuals go through the program with a 70% success rate. Wow. And the most amazing moments of my life became living in that jail. The place that I had tried to escape many, many times is where I would sit in a cell with individuals and just talk to them and give them a Bible, share, the love of God with them, share hope with them, go into intake when they're in their most broken moments and just be that light in the darkest place possible. Yeah. And so once I did that, it just, after 4.5 years and that it's easy to say you're doing a lot of work in God's name.
Right.
But if you're not spending the same amount of time with God in the process, you very quickly get burnt out. And so that's what I had to do. I had to step away and I had to regroup. And God told me to trust him. He had a plan. And for the last 6 months, I've stayed at home and I've been working for the National Peer Recovery Alliance as the Arkansas affiliate director. I'll be leaving for New York City in the morning and going and presenting up there on the importance of peer support. I'm now a Arkansas peer supervisor, which means I supervise other peers in the state of Arkansas who did the work like I do in the jail and help make sure that they're the best that they can possibly be in their profession. And so he just continues to, bless me and show me where he wants me and when he wants me there, I guess.
Well, and sometimes it's and listening to your story, and I just think back about when you go, how God moved you. He had to bring that forward to you that, Crystal, you're not spending time with me. You're not spending enough time with me. And it's like, you can't pour out of an empty bucket. And so the bucket gets less and less, and you begin to feel it, that you have less and less to give. And then it becomes, anything you give becomes out of you instead of out of the Holy Spirit. And and so it becomes to wear on you, and it begins to do that. But here's what I see out of that. Sometimes God moves us out of places like that because he's got to move us into the bigger picture that he has and has had all along. And that's what I feel like that I'm hearing out of this is that and that I feel like that you had to get to that place to rebuild that relationship, rebuild that closeness, that intimacy with him in order to do this next journey that it seems like that he's got you on. So, you know, when you realize that your past was actually going to be a tool that you could use. I remember that friend of mine that I talked about. I remember her telling me, I said, you know, when she came out this first time, I said, well, you know, you never know what God's going to use you. Maybe God's going to use you. She was looking for ministry, and she worked with me at the pregnancy center. And I said, well, what if God used you to go back to the prison and minister to those women? She said, nope, he ain't going to use me like that.
Yeah.
I said, you said that way too loud, because I got a feeling he heard it. And I said, that's exactly what he'll do. Well, unfortunately, he did 5 years later. He sent her back, but he sent her back because she went back into the same pool. And this time she went, and I remember I told her, one of the worst moments, because I went every weekend, or one of the other people, we had about 5 of us that went every weekend. And I remember saying to her, this one Sunday I was on the way down with her son, and he gut punched me. And he said, you tell her that I said, when she thanks me for putting her in there, I'll let her go home. I thought, no, you didn't. No, you didn't just tell me to tell her that. Oh, my goodness. She loves me, but she'll punch me. I think we both could go to prison. I don't know. And I remember the day I told her. I remember that Sunday when I told her. If she hadn't been there, she might have whipped me. And she loved me too much to whip me. But honest goodness, she said, I will never do that. And I said, well, I guess you get to stay here forever then. And I thought, oh, no, you didn't, Vicki. Just say that. But I did. It just came out. But here's the thing. The second time that she went, Crystal, it was the same sort of situation. And second time she went, I don't remember exactly how long she had been in at that point, but she sent me an email. And she said, I want to tell you that I thanked God. I fell on my knees in my cell today. And I thanked God for sending me here, because now I know why I'm here. Now I know why I'm here. And I sent back and I said, praise God, because now you're going to get to come home. And sure enough, she did in record time. She got to come home. Both times God let her out in record time. And she stayed clean and stayed straight. And I'm just so proud of her. But sometimes God does that. Sometimes God sends you back in the very place that you don't want to be able to minister to the people. But it's a draw. That's a draw on your spirit. It's a draw. It's hard work. It's hard work to go back into that place or see the people and walk them through the many traumas that they've experienced, because drug addiction, you don't get there just because you tried it one time. Most of the time, I'm not going to say that I know this is 100% of the time. You could probably correct me on that. But I don't, I have found, because we worked at Options, we worked with you guys, and was so thankful to get to do that. But what we saw is there were so many that had trauma in their life from sexual abuse, from rape, from abortion, and that they were just self-medicating. And so and I've said this to people before, if you don't deal with the trauma that got them there, you can get them out and get them clean all day long, but they're going to go back.
Exactly.
You got to deal with 100%. The trauma. They got to. Jesus got to get in there and deal with the trauma.
Yes.
So
that was for sure in my case.
Do what?
I said that was in my case as well. I had to deal with the underlying trauma.
Absolutely. I just think I knew what comes through the pregnancy center, the women that come through the pregnancy center, up in the 90 percentile of them had been sexually abused and or had an abortion, at least one, in their lifetime. So their self-esteem is in the toilet. It's already there. And all somebody has to do is offer them a drug, and they get to escape one time, and then it's like, okay, now I know how to get out of this pain that I've been dealing with all these years. So if we don't love people back to it, it just takes a long time, don't it?
Yes, and I just wish society could understand that a little bit more, and they just look at incarcerated individuals or justice-involved individuals and see, crimes committed. They see just,
I think they don't think.
The stigma.
Yeah.
The stigma of it all. And what I get the blessing of hearing is the stories.
Absolutely.
And
you know what the truth, the real deal is.
Yes.
Yeah. So what does it mean to you when someone begins to believe that they have a future beyond their mistakes? What does that mean to you, to get to see them and be able to walk with them through that?
It's beautiful to have a front row view to see people's dreams come true is probably one of the biggest blessings I could ever see in my whole life. I can only imagine what God sees when he looks down and sees it from his own eyes, and I'm tearing up right now just thinking about it. The lives restored, because we're not restoring, one life by sharing the love of Jesus.
Right.
We are restoring generations or trauma, families. I see the ripple effect, communities. It's amazing, and it's just beautiful.
And it's not just one, and it's not just them, is it? Because this triples over into their children, and and their children's children, and they see them from where they came from and see them get their life back straight again and reclaim their life, because the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But the other half of John 10:10 is that God comes to give life and give it in abundance. So he's sitting there waiting. He's just waiting. I told a girl one time that was dealing with all kinds of addiction, and I said, I don't think you understand. She said, God don't want anything to do with me. I said, I don't think you understand. He is all around you. He is like in your face going, look at me. I am here. Turn to me. Let me, just accept me. Come. And she said, really? And I said, oh, yeah. I envision him doing dances in front of people, like trying to get your attention. I feel like that's what he did with me. And I said, and ever so often he'll throw a chair in front of you for you to trip over, something, to make you pay attention that he is there. He's never left you. He's never forsake you. That's what the Word of God tells us, is that he never leaves us. He never forsakes us. So why would he leave us in the middle of addiction or any other sin? Because it's his goal. He paid the ultimate price. Of course, he wants us with him. Why wouldn't he, So go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, relationships with Jesus, sometimes they come on his terms as well.
Yeah.
And so just because an individual doesn't get it the first time and that seed is planted, I've seen people that I have worked with that in the beginning wanted nothing to do with it. They're like, no, but they were able to get sober. They were able to get a recovery plan. And then a year or two later, call me and say, hey, I've been going to church.
Wow.
And now I'm looking back and seeing that missing piece, because they had gotten to the end of their 12-step program or whatever and had a spiritual awakening as a result of it. And they're like, and I'm getting some of those things that you had said to me in the beginning. And so those types of stories too are the ones that I truly love, and the ones that I hold dear when I minister with people, and when I try not to push too much, because I don't ever want to push somebody away, and so those are even more important to me than the ones that just boom, get it right off the bat.
Well, and how does encouraging these people continue to strengthen your own transformation? Because the thing is, I know that seeing people come out of the muck and the mire is like such a huge blessing. And it does, being able to see somebody else's life change, and you might have just had a little bit to do with it, What does that do in your own transformation?
It keeps me motivated, for sure. It keeps me going, because it heals little me, because I didn't ever feel like there was anybody there for me to go to. So I try to be that person for everybody that I'm helping. My phone rings 24 hours a day sometimes from different people, for different reasons. And I enjoy that. I enjoy being a part of their life. I enjoy being Mama Crystal, or the big sister they never knew they needed. And
Right.
so it gives me purpose and it gives me joy.
Well, and people don't realize that, that's real discipleship. It's to do the kind of work you do, the kind of work we do at the Options. I mean, you have to be in people's lives. You can't just give them a game plan and send them out the door and think that that's going to work. You've got to walk that dirty mile with them.
Mm-hmm.
You got to walk every bit of it with them. And that's what Jesus did, and you got to do it too. You got to walk that mile with them. Well, the other part of this is that as if overcoming addiction with a drug wasn't enough, you've also committed yourself to a health journey, and you made a pretty big, significant lifestyle change too. That kind of transformation isn't easy because I've done it myself. I know that it is not for the weak at heart either. So let's talk about what inspired you to begin to focus in on your health.
Well, I believe in the 8 dimensions of wellness and recovery. And so, you've got your emotional, your environmental, your financial, intellectual, occupational, physical, social, and spiritual. Those are all wellness dimensions.
Right.
And so for me, I'm a goal setter, and I have to be working on different goals in different areas all the time to better myself as a human being. And so I replaced my drug of choice was food when I got into recovery, along with being middle-aged and the joys that come with that. And I gained almost 100 pounds, and I didn't know who I was anymore. I just couldn't identify with myself. And so I started a 3-year journey, got into CrossFit. My best friend signed me up for that. I committed to 1 year of that and changing eating habits. And, I did have to add a GLP-1 into that at the end of it to get me to where I am now over that last little bit.
Right.
And have lost 100 pounds, and I've maintained that. But it was all about making healthier choices and, having God with me through that journey, because it was not easy for Chris. That journey, I would say, is harder because it's so readily available. It's everywhere. Fast food, this, that, everything else. It's everywhere you go.
Everywhere.
And I like it all. There's no food that I will not turn down. And so it's a trauma response for me as well, food is. And so it's going to be an ongoing journey just like anything else.
Yeah. Well, and I remember asking my little adopted kind of mom, they were my youth pastors, and I remember asking her one time, I said, I just don't understand. I was trying to quit cigarettes at the time, and she was wanting me to go on this health journey. And I was like, I don't understand. How come I can quit cigarettes as hard as cigarettes was to quit, but yet I can't get control over this food? And she said, well, Vicki, you didn't have to have cigarettes to live. You have to have food to live. You can't not eat food and live. You can not smoke cigarettes and live. And so she said, that's why it's harder. And I was like, this is so much harder. And I'm a sugarholic. So I've told people I understand addiction because I can't look at sugar, because if I look at it, it gets in my head. I kind of think that's sort of like the same way that it does any other addiction happens. But when God broke off the cigarettes off of me, I mean, I can be in a room full of people smoking. It is never one time have I ever had the desire to go back. But I can't tell you that with sugar. I cannot tell you that with sugar and food, because I'm with you. I like it, and I really have to. It's a day-to-day journey, but I think I just think with what you've overcome, food is hard because it's readily in your face all the time. But that was big, because I've known girls that when they started gaining weight, they never did have any weight on them when they were on the drugs or stuff. But when they come off of them, the weight started coming back because now they felt better. One.
Yeah.
and they felt like eating too. And so the weight started coming back on them, and they didn't like that. And so sometimes they would go back. So I think there's a whole nother ministry right there.
There is, yes.
Yeah.
A whole different dimension.
Yeah. So, there are a lot of similarities in that both food can be an addiction for people, I think, for most of America. I think that people ought to be able to see, I hear people say the same thing about addiction that I do have people say about abortion. They'll go like, well, I just don't know how they did that. I just don't understand why they did that. No, you wouldn't, because you haven't been there. You haven't experienced,
Right.
you haven't walked that mile that they've had to walk. You don't understand it. I get that. But please don't say that, because you may be brought to that table. Just don't say that, and try to have compassion. You may not understand it, but be thankful that you don't, if you really don't. And you don't have, but then you have people that was as big as what I was, and they're going like, well, I don't understand why people can't do better about eating. Well, because it's in your face all the time, and I like it. I like it a lot. And it is a crutch for us.
Yes.
It's a comfort thing. So it is an ongoing thing, and to keep it off. I've done it, lost it, kept it off, and then went back to it, So I'm constantly, it's daily, as you know better than anybody, that it's a constant choice.
It is.
How do you stay motivated when your progress gets slow on your health journey?
Oh, I don't know. I really, just picking. I have bad days where, I just try to make healthy choices.
Right.
That's all I try to do. I try to just stay away from sodas. I like my flavored waters, I look at what I have. When I go to the grocery store, I just try to buy things that I don't have at home that I can snack while I'm at home and
Right.
things. That way, when I'm out, I do different things. And I try to stay active. I play softball now. I couldn't have done that 3 years ago.
Wow.
I play in a softball league, and just, doing things that keep me active and motivated.
Right. There may be someone listening today, Crystal, who kind of feels stuck, whether they're stuck in their drug addiction, whether they're stuck in they may feel like they're stuck in the recovery part, whether it be their health journey or whether it's the recovery part. Maybe they want to change their life, but the mountain seems to be too big to climb. It's just too overwhelming. So what would you tell somebody who's ready for a life change but doesn't know, they just don't know where to start? Would you agree that real change often begins with just one small step?
Yes. There is a seat with your nameplate on it at the table, just waiting for you to take a seat in it, just waiting for you to reach out, because this is a journey. I call it we-covery. You cannot do this alone. It is not you-covery. It is not I-covery. It is we-covery. And just reaching out and making that first step is going to be the best thing that you ever do.
What do you think are some first? Yeah. What do you think are some first, just simple steps that people would you tell them? Like in the recovery of addiction, I think it's a head thing. I think you have to get it in your head that whether it's food or whether it's a drug, I've always had to go down that road and get my head straight. What do you think is one of the first steps that people can take today?
They going to a meeting like-minded individuals, getting into treatment, whatever's best for them, and that's where peer recovery specialists come in. They can help you find what option fits best for you and your lifestyle, and what you have available to you,
right,
and walk you through that process. But that it is possible. If God is no respecter of persons, He will do for you what He has done for me and for so many others. Yeah. And it really is up to you. He gives us choice. He gives us agency, and it is your choice. Like, we can't do it for you. It is your choice.
Right.
But we're here ready to catch you when you're willing to take that fall.
Yeah. Well, as you look at your life today and where you are now compared to where you once were, what are you most grateful for?
I'm most grateful that he still blessed me, even though I feel like I still feel like I don't deserve the life that I have today.
Right.
After everything I've done sometimes. And I'm just blessed that he continues to bless me, and I'm blessed to have my family and my friends and a relationship with him and opportunities, to share more about him and glorify him.
Right. Well, in closing, Crystal, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story today and your heart with us. And your journey is just such a powerful reminder that no matter where we've been, our past does not have to define our future, and it doesn't have to designate our future. And to everyone listening, it's easy to feel stuck in the middle of a different season. It's easy to believe that where you are today is where you'll always be, but that's not true. That's a lie from the enemy. But what if that's not where your story ends? Well, what if the struggle you're facing today is only one chapter and not even the whole book? And I think, Crystal, you can attest to that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So here on Sit on That Stump in Muddy Bottom, we're reminded that faith can carry us through the hardest seasons and reveal the purpose along the way. So no matter what you're facing today, remember this: He is still writing your story. Until next week, when we have another great show to share with you, take care, keep the faith, and we'll see you right back here on Sit on That Stump in Muddy Bottom. Thank you, Crystal, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great week.